Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. I'm Kat Bruner-James, the current chair of Citizens for Fair Ferndale. We have been holding candidate forums and issue forums for many years, and I want to actually recognize Ann Heller, who's in the audience, who this used to be a big role for her in C.F.F, and I really appreciate sort of the model that she started for these forums. And I'm just we have some forum policies and procedures. We have a few copies over in the back corner if you're interested in seeing them today, but they're also posted on our website if you'd like to see them at any time. And I'd like to give just some of the highlights of these policies. First and foremost, these are informational forums, not debates. It's important for us to make sure that Ferndalians and people within the Ferndale School District have as much information as they need when they go to make their selection on Election Day. So we see this as an opportunity to give information to the voters, and so we provide all candidates with an opportunity to give their position on the issues of the day. And we ask them to refrain from commenting or criticizing someone else's position or qualifications and focus on the parameters of your own position. And of course, this has never happened, but I say it every time. Personal issues, personal attacks outside of the issues of the election are not tolerated. And like I said, it's never happened. So these are pretty friendly tone debates. I hope that we have enough time to get all the issues through. With this many candidates, we're going to try and go as quickly as possible, but everyone gets a 3-minute opening, and that can just be on any focus that you want about your position. And then we're going to get through as many questions as we can with 8 candidates at 2 minutes per response. We're thinking we'll probably only get through about 6 or 7 questions if we're lucky. And then at the end, everyone will have a 2-minute closing. And that might be an opportunity to finish up a thought about something that might have gotten cut off in a 2-minute response, or focus on something that maybe didn't come up in one of the questions that were asked. I want to recognize today that we have as our moderator my friend Brandon Stump. He is from West Virginia. He graduated from West Virginia University with a Bachelor of Science in Journalism. And he went on there to get his law degree and was, editor-in-chief of the law review there, and he has now relocated with his wife to Michigan. They are residents of the city of Detroit, and I really appreciate him taking the time out of his afternoon so that we could have someone totally disconnected with all the candidates. And then we also have Paul Scobie, who is going to be our timer. And like I said, 3 minutes for opening, 2 minutes for responses, 2 minutes for closing. He has some little signs that he'll hold up to give you a warning when you're getting close to the end of your time. When he puts up the stop sign, please try to complete your thought within just a few seconds. If you start moving on to another thought, then Brandon's going to have to cut you off, unfortunately. All right. Oh, and I want to thank Ed Burns, who I don't think is in the room right this second.
Dismantling the library part.
Okay. Well, Ed has been gracious enough to open up the library on a Sunday, and we truly appreciate that. And Mary Schusterbauer here is going to be collecting the cards for your questions. And I just wanted to let you know on the questions, since we're going to get through so few, I might try to group some subjects together. So the question might not be asked in the exact same words that you wrote it, but it's only because I'm trying to put things together, get through as many topics as possible, group similar questions together. And if there are any questions that are not directed at the candidates at large, if it's directed at a particular candidate, I'm not going to ask it unless everyone can have a fair opportunity to answer it. Okay? All right, let's get started. Thank you very much.
So now we're ready for the opening statements to begin, and we will begin, I think, in alphabetical order with Amy Butters.
Okay. Good afternoon, I'm Amy Butters, and I'm here to talk today about if I get elected to the school board, I will work on setting these priorities: improving resident retention, academic achievement, and communication. When my husband and I moved to Ferndale in the year 2000, our first daughter was 8 months old. We knew no one in Ferndale. My husband and I grew up in Iowa, and that's where most of our relatives live. I think my first experience with Ferndale schools, was on September 11th, 2002. I took my 2 little girls to a 9/11 memorial service, and it just happened to be at Ferndale High School football field. We didn't have any connections to FHS, but on that day, it served as our community center. In 2004, our third daughter was born, and from time to time, we toyed with the idea of moving away from Michigan, because our roots here still were not very strong. But in 2006, our roots really did take hold when we enrolled our oldest daughter in Ferndale schools. And with each year after that, we have felt more a part of our community. When we needed a bigger house, our first priority was to stay in the Ferndale School District. We moved to a house in Pleasant Ridge, and we got more involved with district happenings. That's when I started to see some warning signs. Every time we turned around, state funding to schools was decreasing. People in neighborhoods throughout the district were choosing other school districts for their children. Our district seemed to be focusing a lot of its energies on programs that bring in money. And suddenly I realized I was hearing more about the business of running a school district. Where was the community? Decisions were being made by a small group of people, and I was starting to feel like I couldn't assume that the positive school experience for my daughters would continue. I come from a newspaper journalism background, giving me effective communication skills, asking tough questions, and including all sides of an issue. In my newspaper career, I also gained management experience, supervising a staff of editors and fostering teamwork. I decided to run for school board because these skills are what a board needs, and I can bring these skills. My volunteer work in the skills also qualify me. I worked on the campaign to get the school bond passed earlier this year. I'm on the Ferndale Education Foundation. I participate in org support. For my girls' school musical, I was the vocal director. I have spent countless hours volunteering in the classroom. My professional and volunteer experiences have taught me about the importance of including all voices in the decision-making process and collaborating toward a common goal. Being on the school board isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. It's about setting priorities. As your school board member, I will work for you. I will listen, I will think, and then I will make decisions for the whole district to keep it strong and to keep our community strong.
Thank you. Now we're going to work our way down the line alphabetically, so we're going to go on now with Katrina Collins.
Well, good afternoon, and I'm Katrina Collins, and I'll let the siren go by. And I would like to thank the Citizens for Fair Ferndale for hosting this forum today. This isn't the first time I've been a candidate for school board, and this isn't my first forum with C.F.F. I remember my first forum was at a coffee shop on 9 Mile, where a small group of people met with Ann. And so few people came that it turned into an informal conversation. And at that time, we talked about the future of Ferndale schools, we talked about student achievement, and we talked about how we could change the perceived image of our school district because we border Detroit. At that time, or back then, I remember my son telling me that when he went to a swim meet at a school north of here, students from that school chanted at our swimmers, and they said Ferndale was the hood, and that they should return to the hood. I was determined to make sure our students didn't feel unwelcome when they went to other schools. And while I've been on the board, I've written letters and I've made calls to other districts, letting them know how we were treated when we were at their schools. Good or bad, I wanted them to know. I think that my diligence of letter writing and my influence on the behavior of our students has helped our reputation. I actually have had conversations with parents from other schools praising our students for their behavior, and I've had fans from other schools tell me how welcome and safe they feel at our events. I have, and I still, spread the good news about Ferndale schools. As I have knocked on doors during this campaign, I have told my neighbors about all the good things that are happening in our district. I've had to dispel the doom and gloom that others are spreading. Yes, I tell them there's always room for improvement, and yes, I tell them we have very diverse and unique population of students. I tell them we have families in our district that worry about where their next meal is going to come from. And we have families in our district that can't decide where to take their next family ski trip. Ferndale isn't always and will always be charged with educating this wide range of students. I'm not making excuses. I just want everyone to know that some kids have more obstacles than others. I personally have taken on helping those families with less. I have provided food, clothing, and support to many families. I never know from week to week how many kids may be at my house for a hot meal, a place to sleep, or help with their homework. Some of you may know that my husband is the police chief, and with him and with his help, we also work with the schools to help students that may be having problems at home. You see, I grew up very poor, and I know how quickly schoolwork can be put on a back burner. It might be because you have no heat in your house, or it might be because your electricity's been turned off. I know what it's like not to have what other kids have, and that is why I'm in this for all the kids. Not everyone sitting here today can say they have devoted over 17 years to helping the families and students of the Ferndale schools, and I am not ready to quit making the tough decisions at all levels to improve our school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. So now we're going to move on to Kevin Deegan-Krause.
Thank you. I'm Kevin Deegan-Krause, and I'm sitting here because I think our school district needs something new in addition to the good things that have already been done. What we need that's new, I think, is a school district, a school board that will ask tough questions and will plan for the future. It's only by planning for the future that we can keep the good things that we have right now, that we can fix the things that are broken, especially the clear problem of retention that we're facing, and that we can plan a sustainable path for the future. In this effort, I'm really honored to be accompanied by really everyone up at this table, all 8 of whom care passionately about this district and its students. I'm especially honored to be part of a team of 4 people: Amy Butters, Raylon Leaks-May, Jim O'Donnell. You've probably heard that together our last names spelled B-O-L-D, or bold. But it is an honor to be up here with them. Like everyone up here, also, I'm a lucky spouse. My wife, Bridget, is probably better known to most of you than I am, and I am very happy to ride on her coattails because she's a great member of this community. I'm also the proud father of 2 kids, one of whom is sitting around back working on her homework right now, but is kind of an election junkie like her dad, so she may pop in and listen to what we have to say. I'm also an educator. I teach at Wayne, but I've taught in job training courses. I've taught in high schools, and being in the classroom and seeing the light go on when students understand something is my main passion in life. As part of a teacher at Wayne, I also get to be a researcher. And here, actually, my research is relevant and useful. What I study is political science, and in specific, I study why public institutions work and why sometimes they fail, and how people can keep their public institutions accountable. And those are really important things, I think, as we move through this election. Finally, as a community member, I've been involved in volunteer and public service since the week we moved to Ferndale. And there's a long list that I could give you on that. But I think rather than give you the long list, what I want to talk about in the minute and a half that I've got remaining, and you're probably lucky that it's a minute and a half, because as my family will tell you, I can talk about this for hours, but is this library. This library is an extraordinary institution. And in 2004, I was fortunate to be chair of the library board when the city spun it off. And I'm prouder to say that the first thing we did was a long-range strategic plan. And there are a bunch of people out here in this audience who were very much part of that long-term strategic plan. So we brought people in from the community. We brought in a facilitator who would ask the hard questions. We gathered the data that needed to be gathered. We sat together and set a set of priorities. And in the end, we produced a 3-page plan with 6 themes, 32 action items, a time frame to do it, and a list of people attached. And the result of that was this place, was this facility. And it's not just the bricks and mortar, but it's what this effect has had on the community. This library brought people back, and it brought people back thanks to the planning that we did. We can do the same thing for the schools.
Thank you, Kevin. We are now going to move on to Raylon Leaks-May.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank Citizens for Fair Ferndale for hosting this forum. My name is Raylon Leaks-May, and Ferndale has been my home for at least 22 years. I'm the mother of 5 beautiful children, all of whom have attended almost every school in the district, past and present. Schools such as Kennedy, Roosevelt, Taft, Grant, Washington, Best Junior High, and Ferndale High School. For those of you who do not know, One of my children attends school outside of the district due to special needs. His name's Ian. Placing Ian in another school district was a difficult choice for my family, and one for us to make because Ian did not receive the proper accommodations and services while in the district. I had to learn very quickly how to advocate for my son, and in doing so made me realize my desire and determination to advocate for others as well. This may have commenced with my son, but it has grown into something much, much bigger. Over the course of a 4-year time span, I've come across the paths of many parents who have voiced concerns regarding safety in schools, bullying, and not receiving adequate supports for the children's needs. And bear in mind that special needs is not only a diagnosis like autism or ADHD or learning or behavioral challenges. It can also be needing a little extra help in math or reading comprehension or reading support. It can also mean those children who are gifted learners not receiving the supports and the stimulation they need to do the very best they're capable of doing. Hearing these concerns is one of the very reasons that I decided to run for the board in the first place. Another reason why I chose to run for the board is because I began to notice a sense of disengagement within this community. An ever-growing don't ask, don't tell mentality, or if you don't ask or even question a decision, then you're not if you even ask or question a decision, that you're not for the betterment of the district. I, for one, refuse to be boxed into this type of mentality. My approach is to be proactive, ask tough questions, demand answers, and I want the community to feel as if they can do the same. In fact, I strongly encourage it. I believe that this district and this community provide many gifts and opportunities to its residents, but we can do better. I expect that you vote for the BOLD team this November. I expect that you will vote for the BOLD team this November, and we will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Raylon. Now we are going to move on to Jim O'Donnell.
Thank you. I'm Jim O'Donnell. I'm the O in BOLD. I have 3 children. One attends Ferndale High School, one attends Ferndale Middle School, and the third attends Kennedy Elementary. My daughters also attended Grant Preschool when they were younger. I'm running to improve the school district for all children at every school. My top concerns are that we lose too many families to other districts and to private schools. According to the state's own statistics, Ferndale loses 1/3 of its resident students, and the trend is getting worse. Also, our academic achievement is uneven, and achievement gaps are too large. We made great strides at the high school, but the fact that the middle school and elementary schools have lower achievement and large achievement gaps suggests that the superintendent and school board have not provided the leadership needed to see gains across all schools. We expect more from our school district leaders. So how can we fix this? First, acknowledge the main problems with specifics. BOLD will do this. The other candidates do not. The district cannot solve problems successfully without closely examining root causes. Second, ensure the continued financial stability of the school district with strong financial planning and modern financial management tools. Things like capital planning, real scenario planning, discounted cash flow analysis and when buying property, and financial analysis for programs to identify meaningful opportunities for resource reallocation. I can provide leadership to get this done because I do it every day in my job. Third, we need real strategic planning that involves the whole community. We will link the resulting plan and goals to administrator evaluations and hold them accountable for executing the results. BOLD will do this. The incumbents continually put it off. Ford and its strategic plan came up in the last debate, so I did some research. Here's a quote from Ford's CEO, Alan Mulally, in 2006, shortly after his arrival at Ford. Quote, "And it is encouraging that there are so many areas of excellence we can point to within our company right now. But pockets of success aren't enough, not today. We need success across our entire enterprise. To get there, we need to have a universally agreed to and understood business plan. It needs to be a single plan, and it needs to work for the entire company. Competitors may try to divide and conquer us. I'm determined that we are not going to do that to ourselves. So we need to set such a plan in place and ensure that everyone knows how we're doing against it. We will all participate, and we will all support each other's efforts to succeed. I don't know yet everything I need to know about Ford, but I do know that this is the only way I can work, end quote. Ford had the wisdom to bring in people with outside experience to provide leadership and oversight to the managers and staff there. We can improve the schools together, all of us. I chose Ferndale schools for my kids because they are good. I choose to run for school board because they can be much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next, we move on to Bradford Parks.
Hi, I'm Brad Parks, and I'd like to thank the Citizens for Fair Ferndale for inviting us all here today, and all of you folks showing up during the Lions game. A little bit about me. I've lived in the Ferndale School District for over 25 years. I've been married to 22 years to my wife, Dina, who's a science teacher in Dearborn. I have a daughter who just started high school and a son in 3rd grade at Roosevelt. Since my daughter started school 10 years ago, I've had just about every school-related volunteer job you can have. I've been president of the Ferndale Elementary PTA, where I've run Halloween parties, so kids at Roosevelt and Coolidge can be joined together in their mutual fear of the haunted hallway. I've set up skate nights for K through 6 kids at Roosevelt, Coolidge, and JFK, so they could have some fun together in a well-lit facility and shake hands with SpongeBob. I run the June Fair at Roosevelt, which lets everyone in our school district know when summer's on its way. I was president of the PTA Council, where all our PTAs from all our schools work together and learn from each other. I've given out scholarships to deserving seniors, and I got our yearly celebration for our hardworking PTA volunteers moved out of the high school and back to the bar where it belongs. I was president of the Ferndale Education Foundation, which gives over $20,000 in grants to all our schools and throws a big charity auction at Boogie Fever every year, so all of us in the district can put our differences aside, embrace our common purpose, and boogie our problems away. I was chair of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee so that all stakeholders in our district could hear what was going on from the horse's mouth and have a common understanding rather than rumors and Facebooking. For the past 3 years, I've been on the Board of Education Program Technology Committee and the Operations Committee. I was on Citizens for Quality Schools and got the school bond passed, and I'm currently chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to make sure that the bond projects go as planned. We just finished the first set of fall projects, and we'll be reviewing the bids for the winter-spring projects next month. Now I'm taking my years of school experience and I'm moving up to the next level by running for the board. I'm running with Ferndale Citizens for Better Education. CBE has been vetting and backing school board candidates for over 30 years. This year, all 8 candidates for school board were interviewed, and I'm proud to have been chosen for their endorsement. They helped bring in the new superintendent over 10 years ago. They helped to consolidate the schools when the entire district was in danger of failing financially. They got our schools back on track. Keith, Katrina, and Jim, they understand the inner workings of the schools on a local, state, and federal level. Our district no longer has a deficit. We actually have a rainy day fund. Test scores have improved, enrollment has stabilized. My daughter is an honor student, and she and her friends and their families love our schools, and they wouldn't think of going anywhere else. This is an important election, and it's important we keep on our path of a balanced school budget, continually improving student achievement, and innovative educational models that help all our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. And now we move on to Jim Flager.
Very good. You practiced that.
I practiced.
So hi, I'm Jim Flager. For those of you that do not know me, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I've been a resident of the Ferndale Schools community for 17 years after moving here from Detroit. I've been married for 24 years to my wife Liz, who's a 1977 grad of Ferndale High after attending all the schools at Ferndale. Liz and I have 2 daughters. Both of our daughters attended all of the Ferndale schools from kindergarten through graduation from Ferndale High School. Mariah went on to Florida State, where she just graduated, and Paige is at the University of Michigan. I am a manager for General Motors in the Global Human Resources Division. I'm responsible for the benefit systems there as well as global data privacy. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in business administration from Michigan State University, so Paige and I have agreed to disagree on a lot of stuff. My school district and community leadership, and I'm proud of them, so I am going to mention them. I've been a member of the Ferndale School Board of Education for the last 2.5 years. I was the secretary in 2010 and 11, and I'm currently the treasurer of the board. I am the current chair of the Ferndale Schools Finance Committee, and I was a volunteer member of that committee for 5 years before I joined the board. I also serve as the chair of the Ferndale Schools Program and Technology Committee, and I've been a member of that since 2010. I'm a proud member of the Ferndale Fine Arts Boosters, the FAB, who raise money to provide opportunities for our kids. I was the secretary in 2009 and 10, vice president in 2010 and 11, and I'm the past president from last year, 2011 and 12. I've been a member of the Ferndale Schools Theater Boosters for the past 11 years, and I've served as the set construction head for the past 3 years. And shameless plug, don't forget the fall play opens Thursday, November 15th at 7:30. We're doing Bus Stop. I was a Ferndale High School marching band volunteer for 8 years, and including serving the last 2 as the pit head, and a member of the Citizens for Quality Schools Bond Committee, and before that I was a member of the Pleasant Ridge Pool Board, and when we lived in Detroit, a member of the Indian Village Board of Directors. I'd like to thank CBE for their endorsement of my candidacy. There's a lot of information needed and a lot of money raised in order to effectively run a campaign, and it's really very difficult for anyone to do that on their own. All 8 of us were interviewed by CBE, and I was happy to be chosen one of the 4 that they endorsed. I don't believe that we are going in a wrong direction. Spirit of full disclosure, I asked for CLEAR's endorsement. They said, no, we're going in a different direction. I think we are heading in the right direction. We're not perfect. There are a lot of things that we need to do better for our kids. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And with our last opening remarks, we have Keith Warner.
Thank you. And thank you again to the Citizens for Fair Ferndale for this opportunity. It's my 3rd go around with them in these forums. 25 years ago, my oldest daughter took French in kindergarten at Jackson, a nationally recognized foreign language program copied by districts as far away as Alaska. 2 years later, my youngest daughter had to wait until 1st grade because of budget cuts. That trend continued, and Madam Brown asked that I speak to the board about these cuts. Later, the same issue came up with 4th grade music program. Ferndale was cutting programs due to diminishing funds, and I stepped up to ask why. And 1 year, we challenged the effectiveness of a tenured teacher. We didn't have success, but gained the respect of the then superintendent for working through the system. And this is a small snapshot of what I've done over the last 25 years. In 96 and 97, I arranged to take Jackson 6th graders to Cobo Hall for family night at the SAE Expo at no cost to the students. Brought the National Plastics Museum Plastic Van program to Ferndale at no cost, and in 2005 brought it back again, and it's been coming to Ferndale every year since. In 98, I was elected the PTA Council President and worked to bring many informative programs to the district PTA units and the community at large. Through my leadership initiatives on the council, I was asked to co-chair the Ferndale anti-voucher campaign with the MEA, and we successfully defeated the DeVos-led proposal of 80% against 20% for. That year, the district brought in a new superintendent to accomplish a minimum of 2 goals: improve student achievement and stop the money hemorrhaging. He changed the educational delivery model to grade-level schools and brought stability to finances and education processes. After the anti-voucher campaign, I was recruited by the Michigan PTA to serve as a field service rep for 250 units and 55,000 members. I became the Region D VP in 2005 and took national PTA training on building successful partnerships and understanding diversity. In 2004, I finally ran for the school board, defeating an incumbent and 2 others. I supported the 2004 bond, and upon being seated at the board table, was asked to support the creation of a new high school for urban students, a nationally recognized high school, UHS. I've become the legislative liaison for Ferndale and the County School Board Association. I've lobbied in Washington, D.C. every year for the last 7 years, sitting across the table from our legislators, 11 brothers, Senator Stabenow, informing them the unique issues that Ferndale has and what to do about it. I also faced 900 school board members and the Secretary of Education, telling them that one test on one day in 1 month is not the best way to judge the effectiveness of our teachers and our schools. So what can you expect from me over the next 6 years? The same thing you've got over the last 25 years. Same dedication as I've demonstrated as a board member, continuing to educate myself with over 150 hours of training, which is 50 classes, and to make sure that I know how to make the right decisions for the kids in Ferndale. Why? Because I support this district and all the kids in this district. What is best for the students is best for Ferndale. Thank you.
Thank you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the questions. Questions have been, you guys in the audience have come up with all of them. And what we're going to do is I'm randomly going to pick a person to start with. Then you will have 2 minutes to answer the question. If you go over 2 minutes, I will kindly ask you to save whatever you have left over for the next question if you want to finish it. And then we will move down the line just like we did here with the opening statements in alphabetical order. So this first question, the very first person to answer is going to be Bradford Parks. And the question is, we had a lot of questions come in about resident retention in the Ferndale Public Schools. And we have a bunch of general questions, but we have one specific question that sort of, encapsulates everything that everyone was trying to basically bring up about retention. So the first question is, what personal knowledge do you have about why some families choose educational options for their children outside of the Ferndale Public School District? And likewise, why do other families from outside of the district choose to enroll in Ferndale Public Schools? In your answer, the questioner asks that you please be specific.
Well, resident retention, obviously a big issue in this election. We talked about it at the last candidate forum. My wife and I, we live in Pleasant Ridge, Ferndale. We never really thought about sending our kid anywhere else but the Ferndale schools. The issue with resident retention, as we all know, is there's these days it's not like a one-room schoolhouse you go to where just the kids from your block go to that school. Things have changed a lot in time. There are so many different educational choices that are out there for your children. You could go to a private school. You could go to a parochial school. You could go to a new charter school. There's just so many choices out there, and public school is just one of them. One issue that comes up is basically that it's actually about personal knowledge. I do know people who have gone to this district and then they've changed their mind and they went to another district and then they changed their mind and came back to this district. It's a big decision to make where you're going to go. Not only do we have all the different educational choices that are out there, but the idea that people are just going to choose, for instance, they just use a criteria like what's the MEET score or so on and so forth. That's just one of the many factors that could go in. It could be, well, my dad went to that school. Well, I heard something great about that school. Well, I saw something in the newspaper about this school. I don't want to go to that school. There are so many different factors. I think the idea that that has been propositioned, the idea that we change resident retention and actually make our administrators go out and try to knock on doors and get people to bring their kids back to our schools, maybe bring them a fruit basket or something, say, hey, would you like to come back here? I don't think that holds water. I don't think that we should take our educated professionals who are working on student achievement for the whole district and move them to some other recruitment type job. I think that they should work on the issues of the day. I have people come up to me who talk to me about this retention and they go, let me get this straight. I have chosen this school, I want to come here, I'm happy here, I promote the school, and yet you're going to go after someone else? Where's my tender love and care that you appreciate what I'm doing, why you're going after others? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we will move on to Jim Flager.
Resident retention is an economic challenge for the district. It would be great, and I don't think there's anybody up here that said we wouldn't love to have every student who lives in this district attend Ferndale schools. That being said, that's not a realistic expectation. There are people who go to parochial schools because their families have chosen that as an option. I'm one of those people that I will state firmly for everybody here and everybody in the audience. I believe it is every parent's obligation to choose the school that they think is going to provide the best education for their child. And whether that's a public school, a private school, a charter school, a magnet school, that is entirely up to that parent set and that child to make the right decision. That being said, our obligation as a school board is to make Ferndale schools be one of those choices that's really hard to say no to. And the way you do that is you focus on student achievement, you focus on providing programs that allow kids who are not performing well to do better, and you focus on providing programs that allow students who need an increased level of challenge because they're doing really well. You got to provide them with something that still keeps them challenged and interested in their education as well. I live in Pleasant Ridge. There are people who never thought about anything different other than sending their kids there. We moved here from Detroit with a purpose of providing a Ferndale-based education to our kids because of the diversity, the music programs, and the educational opportunities that this district provides. We need to do a better job at making sure that the things that we do successfully are well known to everybody. But at the end of the day, people make intelligent choices for their kids, and you have to respect that.
Thank you. And now Keith Warnick.
As resident retention, my personal knowledge about that, the parents in the district make their decision of where they want to send their students to school based on several factors. And I think the main one that I've run across is the perception that our test scores are lower than expectations. And if you look at that in the cohort, you'll find that our test scores, well, if you look at that in combination of what you see in the paper, which is the first place parents see those scores reported, they'll see that those scores may not be up to what they expect. But Ferndale has always had a wide range of programs available to all students. As Jim said, the best way to do that is to offer programs for our high-performing, challenging students, which we do, and to make sure that we're working on programs to uplift those that are performing at a lower level. We constantly change, well, we're not constantly change, but we change based on the factors that are available to us from the students, and the new series of data teams that we have in place will help increase those expectations for the lower achieving students and continue to challenge the higher performing students. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Now we are going to move on to Amy Butters.
Well, I might pull a Kevin here and go over my time, but I'll try. I've talked to so many people about this issue. First of all, what I want to say is this is something that is, resident retention is something that is an issue for all 4 communities of our school district. Some people will say, oh, it's all those people in Pleasant Ridge that send their kids to private school, that's the problem. But it isn't. It's all 4 of our district, all 4 of our communities. It's people in Royal Oak Township who are sending their kids to Clawson and Southfield. I've talked to them. It's people in Oak Park, it's people in Ferndale, it's people in Pleasant Ridge. It's a problem for our whole district. Of course, for me, it's all about communication. That's no surprise. It's all about communication. It's about word of mouth. New families move here, and the word of mouth that they hear is that Ferndale schools aren't so good. And that's what they're basing their decisions on, and we need to address that. The district, I would love it if the district could be more proactive about getting the word out about our great programs that we have here. I have heard from families who have said they have not had good treatment at the central office when they go to sign up their kids for school. That's a basic customer service issue, and I think that we need to address that. Test scores, yes, that's very frustrating that people look at test scores. People have all kinds of opinions about test scores, but it's something that people use to figure out where they're going to send their kids to school. And we have to make sure that we're communicating our test scores adequately to people, explaining why our test scores are the way they are, and we need to bring those test scores up. It's as simple as that. The people that are coming into our schools, yes, I've talked to those people too. They come into our schools because they love the music programs, of course, we all know about that. They love the parental involvement. We have such great parental involvement here, and I know that there are families that I've talked to that's why they come here, because they're not getting that in their home school district. So that'd be it.
Thank you, Amy. And now we move on to Katrina Collins.
Well, my husband grew up in Ferndale and has lived here his whole life, and he works for the city of Ferndale. We never, ever even thought about ever sending our children anywhere else but Ferndale schools. With that, I decided I purposely worked part-time so that I could be totally involved in my kids' education. I have volunteered in their classrooms since the day they started kindergarten. I still volunteer now that they're in high school, and some are off at college. I have talked to many people about our community. I always try to spread the good word about our schools and what wonderful things that we have to offer. I also, been knocking on doors, and people will say, "Well, somebody came to my door and said the biggest problem with our schools is student retention." So I have to. I try to tell them all the wonderful things that are going on, and they didn't know that there was a problem. Now they think there's a problem. I have also know that there's people that come to our school district because of our great programs that they're not getting at their school districts. I also have where I work, I work in Berkeley. I see a lot of people that live in Berkeley that don't go to Berkeley schools. I know people that live in Royal Oak that don't go to Royal Oak schools, just for the same reasons. They don't think their programs are good enough. So all I want to do is make sure that everybody knows what wonderful things we have to offer and what a great education kids can get. My kids got a great education. They got accepted at every college they applied to. They have done fantastically. Ferndale's a great place.
Thank you. We are going to move on to Kevin Deegan-Krause.
It is a great place, and I think one of the jobs that we need to do is to communicate it better. The first thing I want to say is that just because one talks about problems doesn't mean one's spreading doom and gloom or trying to hurt the reputation of the district. I think people are smart enough consumers that they know that when you mention there is a problem and are willing to tackle it, they are much more likely to trust what you say than if you say there really are no problems, that there's nothing really going on. I want to start with the question specifically because the name and face that comes to mind is Jessica Knoll, who lives over here at 623, I think, Saratoga, who I talked to yesterday. And Jessica, I sound like one of those candidates. Well, I talked to her. Jessica said, she's got a 2-year-old, and she said, no one's ever talked to me about the quality of the Ferndale School District before. No one's ever come to me. No one's ever raised this question directly. And I think if it means going to their door, if it means taking them fruit baskets, Tigers tickets, I don't care what. These bring people to the district. They keep money in the district. I think that our first priority should be kindness and respect and outreach to the very people who aren't sending their kids to our schools because they aren't hearing good words. And I will assure you, Katrina, when I go out, I tell everybody about the great things going on in our district, but I also tell them that it can be better. And it's only by telling them that it can be better that you see their eyes flash and they start to think, maybe I'll think about sending my kids to those schools.
Okay, thank you. So now we are going to move on to Raylon Leaks-May.
Well, when I heard that question, I said, I don't know how much personal I can get other than sharing my own story. That's about as specific as I can get. I've lived it. Ian was in the district from preschool through first grade, and for the reasons I stated earlier, not receiving adequate supports, we had to move him elsewhere. Why do some stay? Why do some come in? I've spoken with parents over the course of this election, and what they've all told me, almost collectively, is our music program, our band. These are the reasons that they've chosen to be here. I haven't heard, they haven't expressed to me that much about the test scores because it seems like what's standing out to them right now is our fantastic music, our extracurriculars. Running a school to me is like running a business. I believe that, and I sell insurance for a living. You lose that customer, your business suffers. You cannot take on that mentality that, okay, one's gone, we'll try to fill it with another. You want as many as you can. You want as many as you can get. Resident retention. To me, I cannot take on that mentality that if someone wants to leave, just let them go. Again, this is about customer service, and if we're losing these people just for customer service issues, I say we can do better. We can do far greater. If we're losing people because it's been tradition for them to send their children elsewhere at a certain age or a certain time in their lives, then okay, we won't reach all those people. But customer service, we can do. And we can do it far better than what we've been doing.
Thank you. And now the last person we have for question number 1 is Jim O'Donnell.
Well, in terms of personal knowledge, of course, I have heard Raylon tell her story about not receiving the services she needed for her son, Ian. I've also talked to families in all of the communities, in Royal Oak Township, in Pleasant Ridge, in Ferndale, and in Oak Park. What they cite are those families that have left do it because of discipline problems with bullying, not having the administrators respond in an adequate way to their problems and concerns, ignoring them too often. Some academic needs are not being met well, and that's not just for students with learning challenges, it's at different levels. People stay, yes, because of the music programs and because of the honors programs, and because of this community. People value this community, and it tears us apart when an increasing number of people leave. I see people in the audience who have had, in the last few months, 3 families leave on a single block because they have young children, and now it's time for them to consider where they're going to go and pick their school. And they're not choosing Ferndale. In my job and here at the library, when we have problems with losing staff or losing people who use the library, just like these problems with people leaving the school district, what we need to do is talk to them, find out why they're leaving, and address those root causes. When people leave, they will tell many more people about their bad experience than the people who stay tell about their good experience. So it does matter that we talk to them. It does matter that we listen to them and change. We need to keep focus on achievement, of course, keep up the communication, and market this district well, not just outside of the district, but to our own residents, because other school districts are marketing to our residents.
Thank you.